Hmm. Where were?
I'm not getting anywhere on the internet here.
Yeah, next to it,
I'm connected, but
I'm not.
I'm not being able to download can I have a paper copy of the agenda?
And we'll find out here in a minute. Got connectivity, Lee.
I don't have connectivity here. It's not a huge packet.
It's not. I'm just gonna put my device away. Go old school.
Better get your rest for tonight's meeting, Mayor.
Yeah.
I think
What do you?
Daunting is the agenda. The agenda is huge, but I don't, but then I'm
there's lots of rumors running around
about that.
that all the hats are gonna show up. Hats are haters and trolls.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got a call the other day,
What are they upset about?
treatment of women on the council. The council.
Mm.
That's right. Yeah, that's what I hear. That's.
Oh. Huh.
There's only currently one woman in, I mean, we have.
Yeah,
we have
I'm just
hotlines.
saying, yeah, good luck with the 3-minute rule tonight. Okay, I'm dead. And you guys in?
Nope, I
Okay,
went paper.
okay.
Is it time? It's time. Yeah. And do we have a quorum?
No,
We do not. We're one short. And everything takes a quorum. Other than your report.
Yeah. Reports if you would like.
All right. Good morning. I'm going to call to order the Kitsap Transit Board of Commissioners meeting for November 18th. We are one board member short of a quorum. So we are going to delay any of our action items. So those are my chair.
One.
Who?
We got it.
We got a quorum walking in the door.
Well, wait a second.
So we're, anybody got a good joke? No, here we go. Thank you for joining us, Anna.
Thank you for having me.
So, all right, I'll give Anna just a moment to get settled. And we will
no internet.
go to our first discussion, or excuse me, full discussion and action item, which is a presentation of our compensation consultant related to resolution 2576, approval of the information of a non-rep salary survey results. Lawson?
Yes, sir. Just to remind the board that we have historically conducted a non-represented comp study about every 3 years, kind of in sync with our represented contracts. So we've been doing this for the last, I guess, 14 years that I'm aware of. We first did that when I became the executive director. We had not done a comp study for a number of years. I think it was close to 10 years. And what we discovered was that our positions were pretty far out of market at that point. So that's why the board has agreed to go with a comp study essentially every 3 years, just to make sure that we're kind of on a par. We use the same comparables essentially that we do in our contract negotiations, with the exception that we also look at the city of Bremerton and Kitsap County for like type positions. So this is kind of historically what we've done. When the board approved the 2025 budget, they included the funding in the budget to conduct the comprehensive study for the non-rep folks. And we've gone through that process. We've hired a consultant firm that has been going through and checking job descriptions and then looking at our comparables for how we're doing. So I don't want to go much beyond that and steal Annette's thunder, but Logic Compensation Group is the consulting firm that we've retained, and they've been going through this process, and we are at the point now where we're ready to implement their proposed changes. Annette Hofer is on the screen, and she's going to be actually providing a presentation so that you can see kind of the results of this effort. So with that, Annette, I'm turning it over to you.
Great, thanks, John. If you give me 1 second while I get all the screens set up here appropriately, we'll go forward. Okay, can everyone see the presentation?
Yes.
Okay, terrific. Wonderful. Good morning again. My name is Annette Hafer. I am the principal consultant with the Logic Compensation Group. Today I'll be sharing the results of the recently completed compensation study for Kitsap Transit's non-represented positions. And this study builds on multiple surveys that I've conducted for Kitsap Transit since 2014, and I hope this discussion provides valuable insight into Kitsap Transit's compensation program. So our topics today will cover the goals and objectives of the study, the phases of the study, and our results and findings. As we review this information together, please feel free to raise any questions along the way. And in addition, we'll set some time aside at the end to address any further questions. Let me see if I can move this out of our way. There we go. Just a little bit better over here. Okay, so in addition to myself, the study team included another of our consultants, Andrea Gilmore, who's not here today, and Mary Ann from HR were Kitsap Transit study team. This group met on a bi-weekly basis throughout the course of this study to address any issues and make the decisions that guided our study to a successful conclusion. So are there any questions?
No.
No, go ahead.
Okay. So there were 2 phases to our work. The first being phase 1, which focused on a comprehensive classification review. We ensured that all positions were appropriately designated as exempt or non-exempt under the Fair Labor Standards Act. Additionally, we evaluated every non-represented role to establish clear job titling and a comprehensive leveling framework supporting consistency across job titles and levels at Kitsap Transit. So phase 2 focused on that compensation survey, and the objective was to review and update the non-represented salary structure so that each job's pay level accurately aligned with the employee's responsibilities and the market. So this included refining job alignments and adjusting pay grades of jobs to reflect the average pay range maximum of its peer organizations. And this is what we call the pay target within a pay study. So let's talk about the classification phase in more detail. Each job description was carefully reviewed, and the recommendations regarding the exemption status for these positions were provided to Human Resources. HR then evaluated these recommendations and engaged with managers to discuss the job content and our preliminary findings, and then they offered additional insights back to us. After considering this feedback and reviewing HR's information, we provided updated guidance back to HR. A key area of concern for Kitsap Transit in classification was inconsistent job titling. For example, it was not always clear when a role should be classified as a manager versus supervisor. So to resolve this, we evaluated all non-represented positions and developed preliminary recommendations to provide clear and more consistent titling and leveling conventions. So in total, 7 positions were recommended for titling and leveling updates. So we did this and worked with HR, who then worked with those departments to confirm the role clarity and ensure that the recommendations that we made aligned with actual job duties. And this table demonstrates the 9 levels that we defined. This table includes a descriptive and suggested titling convention, as well as typical FLSA or exemption designations for each level. And these titles are just suggested titling standards. And however, job titles should also align with any common industry-specific job titles. For example, one that you don't have, but one that's probably very common and known to all of us, is that a professional engineer should probably be titled an engineer. So let's turn our attention to the compensation survey. This year's 75 benchmarks were included in the study. Many of these roles have also been included in previous survey cycles, providing data consistency and comparability over time. And the same 8 organizations included in the survey remain unchanged from past cycles. And importantly, all 8 organizations participated in this year's survey, resulting in a 100% participation rate, which is an excellent outcome and we feel strengthens the reliability of the findings. So when sufficient information was not available from those directly surveyed 8 organizations, credible and validated published survey data was incorporated into the analysis. Sufficient information is defined as, insufficient information, is defined as fewer than 5 organizations providing a job match to a specific benchmark job. To abide by these best practices, we need 5 data points to summarize the survey data for each benchmark and able to draw conclusions. In these cases, where we did not have sufficient information, we supplemented the data by reviewing 2 other survey sources, the Economic Research Institute Salary Database and the Mercer West Coast Survey, to ensure reliable job matches to Kitsap Transit's benchmarks. This approach allowed us to meet the 5 data point requirement established under the Sherman Antitrust Act for most of the non-represented jobs. This entire methodology that I just described is consistent with the process followed in previous survey cycles, ensuring both continuity and compliance. Once the data was collected and extensively reviewed, the data was geographically adjusted to Bremerton, as well as time adjusted forward to January 1st of 2026. This process yielded our final market data for comparison and decision-making for possible pay grade changes for Kitsap Transit's jobs.
Mary, you have a question?
No,
Yes.
go ahead.
What is a geographic adjustment for Bremerton?
So this is a number that is provided and updated on a quarterly basis. It's called the cost of labor number or a geographic differential. And what this number does, it provides an adjustment factor for bringing data from other locations and aligning that data back to the Bremerton location. For example, if we were into the Seattle area, that may have a factor, and I'm not sure off the top of my head what it was, but let's say Seattle is 105% above that of Bremerton. In that case, we might adjust that data backwards by that additional 5% to bring that comparable to the Bremerton area. And again, that's just an example. I'm not sure if it's exactly that number. But that's something that we've done during the course of all the surveys.
Okay. Bremerton is the least prosperous, one of the least prosperous places in Kitsap County.
Yeah, that's why the data is moved downward when you're, because the cost of living in Seattle is different than the cost of living in Bremerton or even anywhere in Kitsap County.
Or Port Arthur.
Well,
Yeah.
yeah, let me offer a clarification
Instead of all of
there.
Kitsap County.
It's
Yeah.
not cost of living, it's cost of labor. And the difference between the two is that cost of living is the cost to buy that bundle of goods. The cost of labor is what the cost of is to employ a person in a certain locale. So they're two different things.
Thank you.
And so in the formal report, you'll see the exact numbers that were used to factor the data to the Bremerton location. Okay. So in this table, this shows the overall comparison results from the past 3 survey cycles along with this year's findings. As illustrated here, Kitsap Transit continues to lead the market in both employee pay at 8.7% above the market, and the pay ranges at an average of 6.6% above the pay range minimum and at 3.5% at the pay range maximum. Again, this is our primary pay target or focus for determining whether a job's pay range should be adjusted. However, not all non-representative jobs are paid above the market, as we'll see in a few minutes. So I think 2 key factors contribute to this above market outcome. I think first is that the accurate placement of non-represented jobs into appropriate pay grades during the previous 3 survey cycles has helped us get jobs into the right place in the pay ranges. And secondly, Kitsap Transit, I believe 2 cycles ago, made a strategic shift. And that was to update the pay structure annually rather than wait each survey year to adjust its pay ranges. So by making these annual adjustments, Kitsap Transit ensures that its pay structure keeps pace with the market from year to year rather than survey cycle to survey cycle, which, as John said, was about every 3 years. This proactive approach prevents the large fluctuations often seen with these longer multi-year survey cycles and reflects the organization's commitment to consistent and sustainable pay management. So let's turn to the individual job adjustments and how those were made, since not all positions were fully aligned with the market, meaning that they were not paid at or above the market. So our recommendations for job movements or pay grade updates were guided by the following principles, which have remained consistent from cycle to cycle. So first is market alignment. A job must be at least 2.5% below the market, meaning it must be paid below the maximum of the average market pay range to be considered for a grade adjustment. And second, we also considered internal relationships between jobs. So we considered both previously established internal relationships as well as current relationships between jobs to ensure that pay grade fairness and consistency were seen across those roles. The other thing is that there are no downgrades to pay ranges. If a job is paid above the market, no recommendations for downgrades were made, and this is a consistent approach with previous survey cycles. So as a result of this year's analysis, 20 of the 75 jobs studied were recommended for a pay grade increase. Now, these adjustments were, I think, influenced by 2 main factors. As you can see, that it was a little bit greater than what we saw in 2022. And I think this has to do with that in 2024, we had higher than normal pay increase budgets and structure adjustments. Nothing crazy like we saw. We went from 3% to 8%, but we did see budgets go up by 1 to 1.5 to 2%, which was fairly significant over the last 20, 30 years. And we also saw that lower unemployment levels leading into 2025, I think, help underscore some of those greater than normal pay increase budgets. I think it's also important to note here that the total number of recommended adjustments may have been higher if Kitsap Transit had not been already making those annual pay range updates, which helped to maintain that alignment with the market. So these are 20 jobs that are recommended for adjustments with pay grades varying from a 1 to a 5 pay grade adjustments, either based on some combination of the market and internal equity. Okay. Moving on. So in conclusion, we recommend that Kitsap Transit continue to make those annual pay range adjustments. This approach has proven effective in maintaining strong alignment with the organization's stated labor market, and overall, Kitsap Transit is managing its non-represented pay structure appropriately. I think it's reflected in the results of this survey. In short, the current strategy is working well, and we encourage you to keep that moving forward with this approach. So that concludes today's talk. Thank you for your time and attention. I'd be happy to answer any further questions that you might have.
Are there any questions? Go ahead.
Okay, thank you. So was retention / turnover considered in any of this?
No. But Mary and Marianne did give us the insight to where the organization may have had recruitment or retention issues.
And hearing the data and the approach, this is very consistent with the approach that we use the city of Port Orchard. I don't know if other cities we do a salary survey every 2 or 3 years just to make sure that our non-represented folks are staying even with the market, even competitive in the market. All right.
Okay, well, I would add just anything. The retention Kitsap has been pretty good. We do have a fair number of folks in, for example, the operators ranks that, and they leave us for a variety of reasons, but generally that occurs within the first couple years of their employment. And I would attribute a lot of it is to the way that with seniority, the operators get to select their pieces of work. And when you first start as an operator, you basically are working what I would generally refer to as crummy shifts. It takes a while to earn your seniority to get to a level where you can start picking pieces of work that are more conducive to family. So that's where we'll see a fair amount of attrition in those first few years of an operator. But generally speaking, throughout the rest of the agency, prior to us bringing on the Marine Services Division, which brought in essentially 75 people that are relatively short in their tenure. But prior to that, our average tenure of our folks was around 14 years, which suggests that we don't have an awful lot of folks that are concerned with retention. We do run into challenges occasionally when we're recruiting folks, and that is based a lot on just kind of the general labor market. For example, we've been wanting to hire a cybersecurity expert, and we thought initially we could combine that with a manager's job, but what we discovered was that cybersecurity is a real specialized talent, and it's in pretty high demand. So that's where in recruitment, we find individual cases where we are having a tough time competing, I guess you would say, with the labor market, especially around the Puget Sound for those kinds of positions. But generally speaking, I think as Annette has indicated, by the actions that the board has authorized with doing this comp study every 3 years, we've been able to keep the agency in a, shall we say, competitive frame, so that we're fortunate in that we are able to hire some great people and we're able to hang on to the great people. So I think that's a testament for thanking the board for your support in doing this over the years. So with that, if there isn't any other specific questions in regard to this, the resolution that is before you essentially is implementing the results of this comp study. Now, I will say that there's a couple things. There's an attached organizational chart and the attached Kitsap Transit salary schedule that we've identified the positions that are going to be moved and where they get moved to, as well as the title changes. As Annette indicated, that we did learn was we had a bit of inconsistencies amongst the titles for positions, and that's one of the reasons, or one of the areas that we asked Annette to look at, and the directors group and myself, and Annette to kind of wrestle with that we are consistent with titles. So if approved, this resolution would not only make the appropriate adjustments based on this comp study, including title changes. And then the last thing I would say is that in the 2026 budget that you recently adopted, the additional funds necessary to implement was included in the 2026 budgets.
Okay.
Mayor, I had a question.
Yep. Thank you for that background, John. Go ahead, Jane.
John, in this study, assumptions are always bad, but none of the positions were frozen on their salaries. Okay, so
No.
we're well within the window of
Yeah.
it. That's what I got out of it. So I wanted to just understand that. Okay.
Correct.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Anna.
Thank you, Mayor Rubb. I have a couple of concerns about pay band 6. The courier, that's the person that goes back and forth between the Gateway Park and Ride and the Charleston base. Is that correct?
As well as they also shuttle documents, if you will, between our operating bases, things like lost and found that is found.
Equivalent to like the starting pay for a routed bus driver?
No, I think it's lower than the bus driver position. Michael, what you know off the top of your head, what the bus driver?
It's a non-CEO position.
So the courier is lower?
Yes.
I am happy to hear that. On behalf of Ed Stern, I'm just going to note that the fare box puller is costing us between $48,000 and $52,000 a year. And then I'm just going to move past parking lot attendant and go to customer service specialist. This is a job category that I have done, and it's a truly terrible, hard job. So I'm just asking specifically about that position, if you've been having good retention in that job title.
We have, and where we do see vacancies, generally speaking, it is because they've been promoted into a different position.
That's a pretty great vacancy.
Yeah, it is. It's a good reason to have a vacancy, that's for sure.
Okay. Then I have no further questions. Thank you.
Is there a motion?
Come on, Jay, you like doing
Well,
this.
I'll do a motion, but I don't have the exact wording in front of me, but if I could have it, I'd make the motion.
Here,
Move to adopt resolution number 25-76. The Board of Commissioners hereby approves the implementation of the 2025 non-represented salary survey presented as Exhibit B and effective with the next full pay period beginning November 23rd, 2025.
Second.
Motion and a second, and you'll be voting on resolution 2576, related to, where we find the approval and implementation of the non-rep salary survey results. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Chair votes aye. That passes unanimously. All right, let's move to executive director items. Boston, do you have anything to share?
I do, as a matter of fact, just three or four things. One is I just wanted the board to be aware that we have had for a number of years a relationship with former Congressman Norm Dix as our federal liaison. And last June, we separated that agreement with Norm, and we've gone between then and now establishing criteria to go out to bid, if you will, for another federal liaison, and we're ready to go out on the market. And I just wanted to share that with the board, that there's a change in who we will have representing us in Washington, D.C. So more to come. See who we get through the solicitation process. There's a couple firms that I'm hopeful will compete for the position. One is a firm that actually has a former Senator Murray staffer and a former Senator Cantwell staffer teamed up. And I don't know if they're the principals, but they're working for the liaison firm. And I'm hoping that they will submit a proposal. And then there's a second one that I'm familiar with, is the same federal liaison that our State Transit Association uses. So I'm hopeful that we'll get one or both of them that will apply for the position. So more to come. The second thing I wanted to share with the board is in regards to the waiving of the fares for federal employees. Now that the federal government is back up and operating, there's still going to be a delay between or how quickly the federal employees will be able to get their transportation incentive pass funded. And I don't think that they're going to be able to get that funded through in time for the December monthly pass. So my intention is to continue that free ride program at least through December, so that we'll have time for the system to get caught back up, and hopefully they will get their transportation incentive.
So that's provided that if they got their incentive in December, that as soon as they get their incentive, you would remove.
Assuming that they're going to get incentive in, but it will be for the January monthly pass.
Gotcha. Okay.
So that's why we would continue the free ride program. And this is consistent with, I've chatted with both the GM, La Mesa Transit, and Pierce Transit, and the three of us are consistent. We're the three that came out and said we're going to provide this. They're going to continue that through. So the only caveat that I would put out there is we're not sure what's going to happen at the end of January. So I think, unless I hear differently from the board, if something like this were to happen again, I'm hoping that I would have the authority to go ahead and implement that free ride if necessary. So,
I hope it's not necessary, but yes.
yeah, I hope it isn't either. So the next item I just wanted to bring up with the board and get concurrence is that right now I don't see a large need for having the second meeting in December 18th. And with it being so close to the holiday, I think it would be certainly my recommendation that we cancel that second meeting in December. We can notify the community early that that's going to happen. So
I have no concerns with that. Does anybody else? Okay. No need to
That's-
meet, no need to meet just to meet.
Yeah,
I like Bobby, but you know, he can hand deliver his Christmas card to me.
Yes.
And I think that's been our past practice too.
pretty much. And a lot of it, it's kind of like this meeting. If it wasn't for the comp study and getting that done timely, we probably could have canceled today's meeting. As you can see, it's going to be a fairly short agenda, so. And then there's another thing that we're going to be doing a new route that is, we've been working with Puget Sound Naval Shipyard in particular, as well as kind of the community at large. And I believe that we're going to be able to activate the parking that we were able to obtain through the purchase of the old West Bremerton Bowling Alley. There's a fair number of parking spaces, and we're kind of cleaning up the lot now and restriping it. And we'd like to be able to implement a route that is going to operate during commute hours primarily. From that parking lot, will come down through West Bremerton down to the ferry terminal. So it would be usable for both PSNS workers as well as folks that are coming into the downtown area and or to catch a ferry boat going to Seattle.
So John, don't we have a building there that we're going to demolish though? Will this impact our ability to conduct that construction work?
It shouldn't. The park and rides or the parking lots are sufficiently away from the
Okay.
building. It's actually across the street in both cases.
Okay.
But there may be, when we come to the demolition, there may be times we'll have to shut down a portion of it, but it's a lot of valuable parking that is basically sitting there unused, so we've got to take advantage of it.
John, how many parking spaces are we picking up in this? I assume it's kind of a pseudo park and ride, or is it going to be officially designated as?
Well, we'll designate it as a park
Okay.
that's available to the
Nice.
public at
Okay.
large, but do you know a number? 115.
115, wow, that's awesome.
So it'll be a nice addition to the West Bremerton area. Now, I have to formally read a statement in regards to the start of this new route. That Kitsap Transit performed a service equity analysis for the addition of the new Route 238 as required by FTA Circular 4702.1B, Chapter 4. The result of the analysis did not show a desperate impact on minority populations or disproportionate impact on low-income populations. So essentially a Title VI review that we had to make sure that whatever we do isn't going to impact the community. So I just wanted to share that, and we'll be starting that route fairly soon. And as I mentioned, I've been working with Puget Sound Naval Shipyard in regards to that becoming available for their workers as well. The route is designed that it will come down Kitsap. It will cross over to Burwell at Naval so that it can stop right outside of the Naval Gate, continue down Burwell, and it can make a stop at State Street in the Park Avenue Tunnel, and then it'll continue on down to the ferry terminal for those that are going there. So, and with that, that's all I have, sir.
Okay. We're to our public comment period. I don't see anybody in the room. How about online? If you is online, you're in the clerk. Charlotte's shaking her head no. Okay, I'm going to close the public comment period. Is there anything for the good of the order? Anna, go ahead.
Microphone.
Microphone. The first thing I wanted to ask is to follow up on the embryonic park and ride. Are you considering that as a pilot program perhaps for the safe parking?
Not at this point. We have not. We're still doing the research on that for safe parking, and we're trying to get confirmation from FTA on what we would need to do from them, as well as can we do something like this for state funded park and ride. So we're still researching that as an option.
And if I remember the discussion, for one, we need to do that homework, and two, we need a nonprofit to come to us to say that they're going to manage the stalls that we put in place wherever those may be in Bremerton, North Kitsap, South Kitsap.
Needs to be a 501c3.
I don't know about that, but,
We're going to have to work through some of those issues with our legal counsel to make sure that we have the appropriate documents ready for whomever to
Yeah.
sign on and accept the responsibilities.
Well,
but they're typically nonprofits that
Yeah.
are doing that work.
because Northwest Hospitality has already like stepped up. That's who Counselor Jane Reblowski had been working with, Anton Pressinger of Northwest Hospitality.
Yeah.
Um,
Could
So-
be a possibility, yeah.
Is there anything that I or anyone can do to like facilitate this? Because it's just getting so cold.
No,
Not-
we have to just do our due diligence with, making sure that we're not going to run afoul of FDA and how to deal with state parking lot. I don't know that there may be another process that we're going to have to go through. I'm sure there will be for some of the co-op lots to get permission from the churches to be able to do this with us. So there's a number of things that we're going to have to go through before we'll be able to implement that.
Okay. And then my second and final, I'm so sorry, Director Clausen, I know you're going to dislike this a lot, but when there was a difficulty with a local nonprofit getting Orca passes from Kitsap Community Resources, Director Clausen like stepped up and checked on the process, and the Orca passes were forthcoming. So I'm sorry to like expose this ready compassion of yours. Sorry about that.
It's not an issue of mine. Just to be clear,
It was
it's
great.
not an Orca pass. This is a system that does not use the Orca system. It basically is a separate ticket program that people are able to obtain through KCR so that they can hand tickets to those individuals.
Anyhow, it was pretty great. Thank you.
So Clarence, anything to share?
Nope. Doing well.
All right.
Congratulations, sir.
Thank you very much.
All right. With that, we are adjourned.
Bye-bye.